All right, welcome to the first video in a kind of informal series of tutorials, almost brain dumps called Captain's Logs. So this one's for FLL, and this is going to be about mission planning in the robot strategy. So this is for Beaver Dam teams, but any FLL team can watch this. Some of it just might not make a ton of sense to you or may not apply to you, but it's all still things that can be used by anyone. Try to keep this one quick, probably 10-15 minutes. But yeah, just informal talk about what me and my team used to do back when we were in FLL. So for mission planning, we have kind of two categories, two steps almost, that we would always do. We would kind of do a mission selection and then a mission grouping. As we progressed, so in our last year or two, we started to kind of been more interchangeable, and the mission selection kind of goes away once you want to do all of the missions. But if you're limited on the amount of missions you can do, right, it's going to take you a while to complete missions, or you're new. You're going to want to have a good way to select your missions, right? The way we always did it was with what's called a bubble plot. So obviously there's missions you do and do not want to do, but it's not really helpful for you, for the judges, for your team to just say, hey, we want to do this mission just because, right? That's not a very good reason. And as engineers, we want a more tangible, quantifiable numbers way to decide what missions we're going to do. The way we did it, like I said, was with bubble plots. So to make a bubble plot, or bubble chart as they're called in Google Sheets, you want to go into Google Sheets or Excel, or I guess if you use some other spreadsheet software, but you want to go into your spreadsheet software and you want to put in all of your missions. So I have the first 5 missions here on the left. I gave them their number and what they're called. You're going to want to kind of separate them in certain scenarios. So, for example, I separated missions 1 and 4 just because I felt that they're distinct enough. Just pushing the drone, I feel like is pretty different mission than also pushing that drone into the little slot or into the certain area, right? It's going to take a bit more time, a bit more effort. So I split those two up. But other missions, the seeds, I didn't split up each seed individually into one. I didn't split up the 2 actions of flipping the rock into one. I kept those as one mission, just for simplicity there, because I felt if you're going to do 1 seed, you're probably going to do all 3 seeds. If you're going to flip the rock, you're probably going to just flip it back over, right? So that's why I combined those ones. Next, you're going to want to put in your points value. So I have them in this right column here. And you're going to just, in the rules book, pushing the drone up gets you 20 points. Putting it into the LiDAR station gets you an extra 10 points. So you're going to make sure you have all these point totals accurate. And if you split the missions, you're going to want to make sure you allocate the right amount of points to each one. If you combine the missions, you're going to want to make sure you combine those points. So those are the easy parts. Difficulty and time. These are where you're getting, the most value, because you're going to rank all of these missions on how hard you think they are and how much time you think they are going to take to complete. You can do them in a couple different ways, especially if you have the whole team kind of doing this, which you should probably do. You can do it where you pick the easiest mission and the hardest mission. So if we're looking at difficulty, let's say we think the drone is the easiest mission on the whole board, right? We're going to give that a 1. I didn't do that here, but we're going to give that one a 1. If we think that the vines, mission 7 or 8 or whatever, we think the vines are the hardest mission, we're going to give that a 10. And then we're just going to rank all of the other missions somewhere in between there. So if we think that a mission, is right in the middle of them, we're going to give it a 5. And then if we think a mission, is harder than that 5, but not as hard as the vines, we're going to give that one, maybe a 7 or 8. If we think it's just as hard as whatever mission's in the middle, we'll also give it a 5, right? So you can kind of do it that way where you compare all the missions, give your lowest, highest, and fill in between. You could also do it, the way we always did it was everyone just picks their own number and you average them out. So if we did this for this one, let's say somebody gives it a 1, 2 people give it a 2, and somebody gives it a 3, that averages out to a 2 difficulty, right? And then you might get like, percentage or like 2.5, 2.3, whatever. But that way the whole team gets in on deciding what it is, right? So difficulty is just how hard we think the mission. 1 is easiest, 10 is hardest. Time is how long you think it's going to take. This primarily is like how far away is that mission? Is there anything that makes that mission like you have to do it slowly, or could take a little bit of time to do the mission itself? But these are all important things that you want to take in consideration because you don't want to be wasting time on a super hard mission, right? That's just not going to be worth it. If you just have them in this little chart here, it might be hard to like kind of pick out what missions might be good to do. You can kind of see like, oh, this one's got low numbers and this one's got high numbers, right? So the already having them in a chart, in a like kind of a chart like this, is already advantageous, right? But the next step we want to do is we want to turn this into a bubble chart. So what you're going to do, this is Google Sheets. So if you're using Google Sheets, you want to go to Insert and Chart, right? In Excel, you're going to find your chart button. And you're going to want to go over to Chart Type and find Bubble Chart. So if we scroll down to Scatter, there's a regular scatter chart, then there's Bubble Chart. Oh, there we go. On Google Sheets, it'll default points into series here, and we want them on size. If we have them on size, that's like the most, gives you the best visual, in my opinion, because it's easy to see. Big circle, more points. Small circle, less points. Right. Now that we have this, we can kind of see some trends going on. Right. This bottom left corner is where you're going to want to have these are the missions you're going to do, right? Because bottom left corner means low difficulty, right? 2 on a difficulty, 3 on a difficulty, and low amount of time do you do it. 2 on the time, 3 at a time. Then the bigger the circle is, the more amount of points you're going to get. So the perfect mission is a mission in this bottom left corner. That's a big circle, right? So a big circle in the bottom left is good. It means it's an easy, quick mission with a lot of points. On the flip side, if you have a mission, if you get to 10 all the way up in this right-hand corner, upper right-hand corner, that's small, that's a mission that's getting you no points and is super hard, takes a lot of time. That's not a mission worth doing, right? So you can, once you have this graph all graphed out, you'll be able to see these different quadrants in different areas, and be able to see what missions are even worth doing, right? So you're going to be wanting to pick missions down this bottom left corner. If maybe you start completing all these bottom left corners missions and you're good with all of those ones, you want to move on. Maybe you have tons of time left over, and so you were like, let's do more easy missions, even if they might take a little bit more time. So we'll do this upper left-hand corner. Or if you're crunched on time, but you still have a little bit more time and you've done all your missions and got them consistent, you might want to be looking at this low amount of time, high difficulty missions on the bottom right, or wherever they may be on your graph, because those are missions that you could do quickly and score points, but they might be harder to do and weren't worth going for at first, but can now go for. In general, unless you've completed every other mission, top right-hand corner are missions you're never going to want to do, right? And the missions in the bottom left, there's going to have to be a good reason why you don't do these missions, right? Because they're going to be easy, quick missions that give you points. If we look at like one leaf here, that's a small circle. So maybe you do want to skip that one because it's something that doesn't give you a ton of points. But it is still going to end up in this towards this bottom left-hand corner and could be something that's quick and easy for you to do. So that's all we have for the bubble plot here and for mission selection. For mission grouping, we kind of do this after, oh boy, I got all of these annotations on this. Okay. Here's our mats, right? When we're going through and doing missions, we want to be making sure we're doing missions not one at a time, right? Doing missions one at a time is fine and it'll get you points, but you're going to run out of time really quickly if you're driving back and forth everywhere on the map. So instead, we want to combine some missions, 2, maybe 3 or 4 missions at once. Sometimes you might be able to combine a lot of missions, right? You'll see some teams do 5, 7, 10 missions at once or in one run. And that's an option, but usually you want to go for 2 to 4 missions because it's going to still be consistent, but not going to waste your time going back and forth driving, right? So if we look on this, I'm just going to do a couple of example groupings so you can kind of see my thought process. I have 2 different types of groupings that I like to do. The first one is just, are the missions close together? This is especially important when they're so close that you could park right up against them and do both or all 3 of those missions. So for example, 5, 8, and 9 up in the top left there, they're going to end up being pretty close that you could reasonably do all 3 of those missions when your robot's just parked right next to them, right? And these are missions that you could combine and probably do with 1, 2 attachments. I think there's videos online of people already doing that, only 2 weeks into the season. So that's an option there, that you could combine those 3 missions because they're so close together. The other option, if we look at mission 4 here, let's pretend we're driving out to 4. We go right by 3 here, mission 3. So next grouping is like pathed grouping. So if we're already on the way to 4, or we're already driving on that path, or if you make a path, these 2 are right on that path, and so are kind of natural to group together, because to do 4, you're going to almost have to do 3, right? It's almost going to be in your way. In fact, I think for a lot of robots, if you try to drive to 4, you're going to end up having to like start out here and kind of curve in because it sticks out too far. So 3 and 4 are good missions to group together, probably because they're just so like, in the same line here. Right? We have that line that draws them together. You can just drive straight and do both missions. Now, I'm not saying that 3 and 4 are the best missions to do together based on attachments. They might need different attachments, but you could probably figure out a way to do them with similar attachments or use a passive mechanism on 3 as you're driving by. Or if you're just doing those 2 missions, you have 2 medium motors in most cases, so you could do them, one with 1 medium motor, one with the other. Some missions might have to be done, independently by themselves. A lot of times these are like collection missions. So this is the last one I'll go over here, but 2 here in the middle, this is the seeds. This one might become more challenging to do in combination with other missions because it's so far away from everything else, right? Even this mission here in the middle, which I'm going to call 14, it's pretty far away from any other mission models on the board. And so you're still going to have to drive a little bit. And it's just one of those that's going to be really easy to just drive out here, pick them up, drive them back, right? So 2 could still be a mission where you just quickly grab those seeds, bring them back, so you have them to use later. But those are like kind of our three types of groupings. And then you just want to go through the board and look at what missions you want to be doing. So if I just go through them real quick, 6 and 7 up at the top here, they're pretty close together. Sorry. So you might want to do those together. 15 and 12 are on that same line, like 3 and 4 are. You might want to group those together. The middle might get a bit challenging, right? You might want to go, at some point you got the crossover left to right or something, so you might want to go kind of a little arc like that and hit 2, 14, and 11. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do it, depending on what missions you want to group together. If we bring in the bubble chart that we just did, we might even have to change this, right? Because what if we say 11, 12, 13, and 14 here, they're not worth doing. These ones ended up in our top right-hand corner and weren't even worth our time. Well, that changes, 15 here. Now 15's all by itself. It doesn't make sense to drive all the way to 15 and drive all the way back. So instead, what if now we could group that in with the 6th and the 7th mission there and have 3 missions there, right? You drive out, over, and you can come back. That might make more sense that you do that. And now that you just have these 2 missions down 1 and 2 here, maybe you try to figure out a way to drive that LiDAR sensor in and then drive out to 2, right? So you have to kind of play around with this as you do your bubble charts and do both of them at the same time. Kind of start grouping these missions together so that when you're making your attachments start making sense together, right? So let me know if you have any questions on either this grouping or on our bubble plot here. Reach out to Coach and Coach will reach out to me. I'll answer any questions you have. But yeah, thanks for watching the first FLL Captain's Log video.